All right, Lions fans, take Maxx Crosby off your wish list. Big money coming now for Aidan Hutchinson, too.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It's a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Wednesday, March 5th into Thursday, March 6th. Thanks for being with us each and every day on Locked On Lions, making us your first listen, and certainly checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you to those of you that subscribe and watch us for free as well on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Shouts to our everydayers that are out there. We had an everydayer meetup today at the beautiful Market North End in Birmingham. Rachel Pritchard and the Flagstar crew, everydayers. Joseph Allen, Mid-States Advisors, everydayer. So it was kind of cool to talk a little Lions with them today, and it was kind of an everydayer meetup. But it's a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Don't forget, Monday, big day, free agency starts. I got two names, one for the draft and one for free agency that I could see Brad Holmes, Lions general manager, looking into. We will get to that coming up later on. Call of the day as well. If you want to be a call of the day, hit us up on our SpeakPipe voicemail system at speakpipe.com/Dairy Podcast page. We will play one of our calls of the day later on today. Lions have issued a statement to our friends at Pride of Detroit. More fans coming out of the woodwork about having their tickets revoked. And so the Lions issued a little bit of a statement to POD. We'll read you that as well. But we got to start with the big news of the day, and that is that Maxx Crosby, the former Eastern Michigan Eagle, the Las Vegas Raiders pass rusher, 27 years of age, a guy that goes on every podcast and talks about how much he loves the Lions and Dan Campbell. He's staying put in Vegas. Raiders have the new coach now in Pete Carroll, and he's going to stay. He got a brand new extension today, did Crosby. Check this out. 3 years, $106.5 million with $91.5 million guaranteed. Whew. Wowzers. Maxx Crosby gets paid in a big way. $35.5 million a year, making him the highest paid defensive lineman of all time. Now listen to this. We could sit here and go, oh, I thought the Lions were going to get Crosby and Detroit could trade for him and blah, blah, blah. No. All right. The Lions aren't trading for Myles Garrett, even though I would back it. The Lions aren't trading for Maxx Crosby, especially now. And there's a lot of layers to this. All right. First and foremost, it does not change my opinion that the Honolulu Blue and Silver Gladiators, as Art Ragnar used to say, the men that don bubbles on the side of their helmet, Bubbles the Lion. Lions need edge rushers. Lions need to get to the quarterback more. Lions are going to start the year likely with Liam McNeil not ready. Will Aidan Hutchinson even be 100%? All right. But this notion that Detroit, who's got Aidan Hutchinson at least for 2 more years, and have got to think about his 5th-year option, which is going to be worth around $20 million. But they cannot afford, and Brad Holmes said it at the combine, and some people believed him and some people didn't. They cannot afford 2 elite edge rushers on the same team that are Pro Bowlers and All Pros because it's just too expensive. It is. I see where Brad went after Myles Garrett at the trade deadline last year to go for it. But as far as trying to obtain him now from the Cleveland Clowns, I don't think it's feasible because Myles Garrett is going to want a new contract. And oh, by the way, Maxx Crosby just signed for $35.5 million a year. That means Aidan Hutchinson's likely going to go for $40 million when his contract's up in a couple of years, right? And you're going to say, well, wait, hold on a second. Maxx Crosby, he's done it longer. He's older. Is Aidan as good as him? It doesn't matter. This is why Matthew Stafford held out and held the Rams' feet to the fire and said, pay me my machni. Pay the man his money. Because Jordan Love and Jared Goff make $50 million a year. So does Trevor Lawrence. And I'm sure Stafford and his people talked to the Rams and said, our guy says is good. So Aidan Hutchinson is going to get $100 million guaranteed and could make $40 million a year before this is all said and done. Maxx Crosby's got to be thrilled. He's got a brand new phat deal with the Raiders. But you know who's more thrilled? Aidan Hutchinson. 3 years, $106.5 million. Holy hell. We're not talking about a quarterback here. We're not even talking. I mean, Saquon just got, and obviously Saquon's a little bit older, but he just got what? 2 at 41 or something. 3 at 106.5. Wow. So Aidan Hutchinson, folks, brace yourselves, is going to get paid in a big way. And again, the Lions have got to make a decision on, look, the 5th-year option decision on Aidan Hutchinson is a no-brainer. And yes, teams can franchise tag players. Teams can keep players around longer at certain slots. But today's announcement that Crosby's a stud. All right. Don't get me wrong. He's been the whole Raider organization for the last few years. They are pathetic. They're brutal. I like the addition of Pete Carroll. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Raiders need a lot of things. But $35.5 million a year for Crosby means that when we get around to the Aidan deal, and you know the Lions are likely talking to him right now about an extension, the number just went up. And maybe Hutchinson's people go, look, we're not ready to commit yet to a long-term deal. We want to continue to let it play out. Maybe they don't want to sign now. Maybe they want to sign next year. Lions could franchise tag. There's a lot in play here, but this is really good news for number 97. Now, again, maybe the Lions, and Brad Holmes said it at the combine, that they've had contact with Aidan. They've talked about him. They want to keep him around. But again, he just broke his fibula and tibia. Will he be the same player this year? I don't know. I hope so. You hope so. But man, 3 at 106.5 is massive for an edge rusher, but it's a premium position. It's an important position. It's the reason why people in Cleveland are freaking out about Myles Garrett not being back. It's why the Browns are doing everything in their power to say, we're dug in, we're keeping him, because you've got to rush the passer. You've got to have elite players or a player or two on that defensive line. The Philadelphia Eagles have studs up front. They just won the Super Bowl. The Chiefs kept making the Super Bowl every year with studs up front. Chris Jones, Karlaftis is coming to his own. There's good players there. Aidan Hutchinson, the Lions survived this year, won 15 games, and went most of the season without their best defensive player. But this money, this is going to be some big-time dollars for Aidan Hutchinson down the road, which could mean also, all right, if you're Brad Holmes and you look up, you go, all right, Aidan's going to command $40 million a year. We have to give it to him. We have to. He is one of the faces of this franchise. He's a local boy. He's done everything they've asked him to do. He's a heart and soul type player. He's a Dan Campbell type player. You imagine if the Lions somehow let him walk? That's not happening. But you know, it is going to happen. Can't keep everybody. You just can't. You know, off the top of my head, I mean, can they re-up Hutchinson for $40 million a year down the road? And then when Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch are up, I don't know if you can keep both those guys. You know, Kirby Joseph's up before Branch, but that could be a guy that unfortunately hits the market. You can't keep everybody. It's just impossible. By the way, a lot of you want to know my thoughts on what the Bears have done the last 2 days. Number one, getting Joe Thuney today in a trade from the Chiefs, with the Chiefs for a 2026 4th-round pick. Joe Thuney at the end of last year struggled mightily. Now, I know he was having to move over to play tackle. His PFF grade this year was pretty darn good at guard as an 80. That's a very good grade. Bears upgraded their O-line. You can't say they didn't. But taking on some of these contracts is a little bit desperate. The Bears paying Jonah Jackson $17 million this year is a lot desperate. Joe Thuney is 32. He's on the downside. So while Chicago upgraded with Jonah and Thuney, no, we're not setting plans yet for a parade in Chicago. Not yet, but that is a good pickup. You can't argue that Tooney's not a good pickup, but I'm not sure. Like I said, at the end of last year, he struggled. But again, he was kind of playing out of position. All right, coming up next, the Detroit Lions have issued a statement to prideofdetroit.com in regards to all these folks that they're booting as season ticket holders. We will do that coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions today is brought to you by a new subscriber. You've probably heard of Chewy. They really do everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Whether you're shopping for food, treats, or even pet health care, Chewy makes it fast, easy, and affordable. With over 100,000 products from all your favorite brands, Chewy has everything your pet needs, from food and treats to toys, beds, and grooming. And it's not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds, fish, reptiles, and small pets too. Chewy also makes it easy to manage your pet's health with prescriptions, telehealth, vet visits, and even in-person vet clinics that they've rolled out nationwide. Auto Ship is a game changer. You can set up automatic deliveries for food, treats, or any essentials so you never run out. You can easily change or cancel at any time. My pet friends all tell me that Chewy's customer service team is just the best. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet healthy and happy. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in the description. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the description. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. Welcome, Chewy, to the podcast. Wednesday edition, everybody, of Locked On Lions. Thanks for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. And do not forget about all the other great shows here on the network. Locked On Red Wings, Locked On Tigers, Locked On Pistons, and the postcasts with Jake Riepma, who, of course, was on last night after the Red Wings lost their game. So check out Jake as well at Locked On Sports Detroit. All right, we've talked about it all week. We had Tony Stevenson on the podcast on Monday, season ticket holder, one of them that got his season tickets revoked. Big story today at prideofdetroit.com, if I can get to it now, written by both Kelly Rowe and Jeremy Reisman. Fox 2's own Kelly Rowe. Another season ticket holder, Paul, is this the same guy? Paul Jan Gorzalowski, posted on his Instagram. Oh yeah, he's another guy that posted that said that his season tickets have been revoked. Everything else, all of that. This is a guy that's been on television and he's been featured in videos and everything else. Now, Pride of Detroit reached out to the Lions, and the Lions have finally spoken and have offered this official statement regarding these season ticket revocations. Quote, through our internal reviews, we have determined that the accounts in question are primarily used for resale and do not operate in a manner consistent with personal use. In an effort to prioritize our fans' access to tickets, we have canceled these accounts and reimbursed the account holders. We encourage anyone who believes we have made a mistake to contact us directly for clarification or reinstatement. All right, so Tony Stevenson, who was on our show on Monday, is out in Oregon, did contact his rep after he got his email February 18th, and the rep was supposedly looking into it and was going to, but it sounded like a long shot. All right. Lions source tells Pride of Detroit they've received several ticket reinstatement requests and have accepted about half of them. Reinstatement is taken on a case-by-case basis and determined by several factors, including a fan's history of selling versus keeping the tickets beyond just the 2024 season. Tickets that are not reinstated are going to a pre-screened pool of season ticket applicants currently on a wait list. Yeah, right. We know where some of those tickets are going. Come on. Come on now. Come on. They're going to the brokers. Don't tell me otherwise. All right. I'll contact Tony and we'll have an update on tomorrow's show on if he has heard back from the Lions, and if his tickets have been reinstated. This whole thing stinks. All right. I know it's big business. I know that there's brokers everywhere. I'm well aware that some of these season ticket holders did do much more selling than attending, and there's fine print that says that. when they do their contracts, but the Lions are in on it with the brokers. That's what bothers me. When Tony was on the show Monday and I asked him, where do you sell your tickets? He didn't say SeatGeek. He didn't say Game Time app, which we love. He didn't say the other ones. He said the Lions resale website. They're encouraging it. But I'm glad, shout out to the Lions, I'm glad they at least did not just go hardline, that they actually have given some tickets back to people that have made a good case. I'm happy about that. That is good. All right, we got free agency coming up on Monday. I don't think the Lions are going to make a big splash. I don't think that they're going to be going after top 10 free agents. I think first and foremost, they've got to re-sign Carlton Davis, the cornerback, and Kevin Zeitler, the right guard. Bringing those two guys back would be massive for this team, and they're both really good football players. And I thought Carlton Davis and how he fit into the Lions' defensive scheme was tremendous this year. With that being said, the Lions like some of those second and third tier free agents, names that you might not know. And so I've got a name of a free agent that I believe we could be seeing in a Lions uniform. And I'm also going to give you the name of a draft pick, a rookie, a draftee that I also think has a chance to be a Lion as well. First and foremost, the guy that I'm thinking might be a fit for Detroit is a free agent defensive end, edge rusher from the Bengals. He's only 20. He'll only be 25 years old next season, and that is Joseph Osai. Osai is famous for his shove out of bounds of Patrick Mahomes a couple of years ago in the AFC Championship game, which set up the game-winning field goal. This kid stood at his locker after the game, bawling his eyes out, crying, apologizing to his teammates. That's a Lion. That's the kind of player, that's the kind of guy that they like in the locker room. Came over from Nigeria, played his college ball at Texas, and this past season, he finally started a few games for the Bengals. He had kind of been a backup his first 2 years. This year, he got 3 starts in. He had 5 sacks, 46 tackles, even defended a pass. And he's not going to cost a lot of money. He had 4 tackles for a loss, 15 quarterback hits. He's not going to be expensive. He's played with DJ Reader before. And his agent does not get along with the Bengals. So Cincinnati might not re-up with him. This is something I read on the Bengals wire, that the agent for Osai is not somebody that has had good luck in the past staying with Cincinnati. So much so that this agent worked with T. Higgins. Higgins fired him, and Higgins has remained with the Bengals, albeit on the franchise tag, but Higgins hasn't demanded a trade as of yet. So keep an eye on Joseph Osai as an edge rushing option that will not be too costly. I think he kind of fits the Lion mold. 6'4", 263, bigger guy that can rush the passer. He also can play a little bit on the interior. And again, will not break the bank. That is number one. As far as the draft goes, doing some research. We talked to Nolan Bianchi yesterday from the Detroit News about the combine, and he brought this kid up. And I keep watching this kid's tape, and I keep seeing Lions. And that's Donovan Ezeraku of Boston College. He's not 20 years old. He's not 19. This is a 22-year-old kid who has been in college for 4 years. Played 4 seasons at Boston College, ACC Defensive Player of the Year this past year. Can get around the edge. Maybe not the size of a guy like Osai, 6'2", 248, but tremendous motor, great kid, loved by his teammates, did very, very well, very, very well at the combine last week. And he can play. He can absolutely play. You know, this is a kid that anytime that they've asked him to do anything at Boston College, he has done it and has speed and can get around the edge and had 16 and a half sacks this year. 3.5 in a game against Pittsburgh. And Donovan Ezeraku is a name to watch. Everybody's talking about his 3-cone drill at the combine and how good it was, how hard he worked at the combine. He has talked to the Lions. So we've talked a lot about other edge rushers, but a kid that just might fit what the Lions are trying to do, especially from a culture perspective and the fact that he can really play. Donovan Ezeraku. Keep an eye on that name when we get to the draft. And again, the Lions could maybe in free agency sign a bunch of edge rushers and not draft an edge rusher till later. I don't know. We'll see come Monday. But I think Ezeraku fits Detroit in terms of how hard he plays, 4-year player in college, and maturity, good dude, and man, he can get around tackles and get to the quarterback. All right, call of the day is coming up next. Let's hear from one of our listeners, shall we? We will do that next right here on Locked On Lions. Appreciate everybody listening and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Again, if you have not subscribed or watched us on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel, please do that as well. Call of the day, where we hear from one of the fans, one of you. You can be our call of the day at speakpipe.com/Derry, DERY, podcast page. Call of the day today comes from a man by the name of Tom Dykema. Thank you, Tom, for listening and checking us out. Let's listen to our call of the day from Tom.
Hey, Matt. My name is Tom Dykema. I'm an everyday listener. I'm originally from Holland, Michigan, but now reside in Las Vegas. I believe the reason we sputtered at the end of the season was all the injuries. Before the Buffalo game at Detroit, there was a stat that said Detroit had 26 injuries throughout the year compared to Buffalo's 4. We lost that game by 6 points. What would have been the outcome if Buffalo had 26 injuries and Detroit only had 4? I feel we need to figure out why we had way more injuries than any other team last year. Were there more injuries at Ford Field? If so, can we change the turf at Ford Field to prevent some of these injuries? Is it the strength and conditioning coaches at the Lions? What is the root cause of all these injuries? It would be awesome if your crack research team could come up with some league injury totals. I love the podcast. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you, Tom Dykema, checking in on our SpeakPipe voicemail system. Tom brings up a very interesting question, and I'm going to have to get the crack research staff to look into this some more. But what I can tell you, Tom, about the injuries, and let's talk about the turf at Ford Field. And again, like Carlton Davis broke his jaw. That has nothing to do with the field at turf at Ford Field. Aidan Hutchinson split his leg in half, basically, in Dallas. So that wasn't something that occurred at home. There were some other injuries that did occur at Ford Field. I believe the Derek Barnes injury, a few others. But let's remember, the Lions are not going to be replacing the turf again. They just did in January of 2023. So they've had 2 seasons now with their old slit film turf, and now they're with the Field Turf Core monofilament surface. It's supposed to be safer, and it was years ago that the Players Association recommended banning the slit film slit film turf. Say that 3 times fast. But there's been a lot of questions about the Ford Field turf and whether it causes injuries, and really any of these turfs. The Giant Stadium is another one, or MetLife, where the Giants and Jets play. A lot of non-contact injuries. Of course, Aaron Rodgers a couple years ago, all of that. So I don't see the Lions changing what they're going to do with the turf. I don't. It's been 2 years now since they put the new turf in, and it's not cheap. All right, that's expensive. As far as the staff, the training staff, the medical team, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, they look at everything. They're on top of everything. And it was years ago that Campbell fired the old trainer who'd been around for a long time, and replaced him. And I just think it was fluky this year. I really truly believe that it was bad luck and that whatever could go wrong. I mean, how do you explain that really the entire offense, for the most part, stayed healthy and it was just another side of the ball where the injuries occurred, where Lee McNeil and Aidan Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport and Derek Barnes and Alex Anzalone and Ife Melifonwu and Carlton Davis, all these defensive players, John Kaminsky, was all on defense. I don't think that the turf creatures and monsters went up. We're only going to injure the defensive players based on how they play, how they react. No, it just was bad luck. So I appreciate Tom asking. I will have our crack research team look into this, and we'll see if there's anything that was a little bit crazy about this year. I just think it was bad luck. I truly believe that. And Tom's right. We still sit here in March and go, man, what happened 2 months ago? Why did the Lions lose to the Command? All these things that happen. And yes, Jared Goff had a bad game, and Ben Johnson didn't call a great game, and the defense gave up 38 points. It was just kind of a storm of everything that was taking place. But if these guys can get back and get healthy, this defense, I think, will continue to get better. And they're going to add to it. They're going to. You talked about Darius Slay the other day. Maybe you re-up Davis. You bring in Slay. You've got a deeper crop of cornerbacks. 4, 5, 6 years ago, veteran players like a Darius Slay playing basically on a one-year deal at 34 years of age would never have considered a place like Detroit to play. Now, certainly he is. He loves it here. All right, that'll do it for us here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts and making us your first listen when you get up in the morning or maybe at night when you're going to work out. Appreciate all of you checking out the program. We're getting closer to free agency, folks, and I think in the next couple days, we could see a couple of cap casualties with the Lions. Stay tuned.